Tom, many operations really need a sales manager. Sometimes the best salesperson on the sales floor does not necessarily make the best sales manager, it would seem.
I'd say more than sometimes. I'd say a good share of the time. The analogy I always use is that, how often is the star quarterback ended up being the great coach? Very seldom, actually. There have been a lot of them try it, but they haven't necessarily had the skills to do it. Dave, it's a totally different skill set. And, well, I would never diminish what the best salesman on the staff's doing because, they're the lifeblood that keeps the dollars flowing through an organization. Many times, they don't have the skill set to be patient with other people. They're not good trainers. The best salesperson is often a doer. Give it here, I'll get it done type person. That's how they achieve that extra level of business. But that's not always a good attribute for a manager to have. Because if it's just give it to me, I'll get it taken care of, really you're minimizing your staff. You're either keeping your staff undeveloped in one of two ways. They're not getting the coaching and the skill building that's necessary, or they'll get lazy on you. And they'll ask questions that they know that you'll just answer and take care of, and they don't have to go do the research or learn themselves. So I've said for years, when you make your best salesperson your sales manager, all you really did is lose your best salesperson.
So should you try to seek out somebody who you think is a natural leader? Would that be the way to go?
Well, I think leader. I think somebody that's very observant because, the best salesperson, in my experience, might not be great at doing the paperwork. That they're really good with the people that they're working with, but many times what I've observed is, they kind of leave a trail of paper behind them that, others are probably within the organization are maybe good at deciphering, if you will, but they are seldom the most precise. They're seldom the most organized. These are things I'd be looking for in a sales manager. Somebody's very observant. When I said the great star quarterback's usually not the best coach, it's often somebody that was the second string quarterback or the 10th guy on the bench in basketball or whatever sport you want to use the analogy. They still have to have a fundamental skill set as far as they could do it, they have done it, they know what they're talking about, they know the game, they know the rules. It's just that maybe they didn't have the star qualities as far as the execution, but they've been sitting there watching, they've been paying attention, they've been thinking, here's what I might do in this situation. I'm not saying don't promote from within a sales staff. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying don't automatically assume, and don't also make the assumption that the number one salesperson wants to be the manager. A lot of times what they love to do is sell. Not everybody wants to conduct the orchestra. Sometimes they just want to play. That's what they enjoy, that's what they're good at. It's a different skill set.
How would one assess, say the manager, the owner, assess when even a sales manager is needed?
That's a tough one, because if you're a smaller operation, you have a handful of salespeople, this is probably more of a part-time position. If you only have a handful of salespeople, you can't afford to hire someone just to, keep control of them and then absorb that level of overhead. I know that's difficult. So I don't know if there's a magic number. I think you sense it, you feel it. I would say if training is not getting done on a regular basis, and I mean on a scheduled basis, because it's been well proven that companies that place a high value on the customer will train their salespeople. Their salespeople, will be able to deliver that. So if training is not getting done like it's supposed to, if product knowledge is not being kept up on, if you say, watch me and observe, that's usually a poor way to learn. I can watch you play the piano all day. That doesn't mean I can play a note. I hear people say, well, I had them ride along with an installer so they'd understand. No, they don't. They observed. But, they're working on the windows outside this building. That doesn't mean I know a lick about, how to fix a window. It just means I'm watching them do it. And I would say, when you see that these skills aren't being built upon, when things are being, ignored or put on a back burner. Maybe it's time. The other thing I would probably say is when you think you have enough business that you can support this level of overhead, and don't look at it as added overhead. Just look at it as, this salary is going to further the sales of the store as a whole.
Now, it would seem like a salesperson cannot be a sales manager. It seems like it'd have to be either one or the other.
Yeah, to every extent possible. I think still the general feeling is you're either working for me or you're working against me. And I know we try not to have that culture, but I hear people say, I'm the sales manager, but I'm also the #1 salesman. Well, duh. If I get first pick at all the people that come in the door, you may be the most talented here. You may be the most, customer base, referrals and all built up, and God love you. But I don't know that qualifies you to manage the others around you. They're going to feel a little resentful that, you're taking your big half out of the middle and they're getting, the crumbs that are left in your wake. So I'd be real careful of that. To any extent I can, the sales manager there is to further sales, to help you make sales. They may even make the sale, but somebody else is going to get the credit for it in my mind, because I think that's a real slippery slope to have somebody be a producer and be a manager as well. Same back to my sports analogy. How many times has a player coach ever been successful? There have been several try, but the camaraderie and all the execution, the judgment really doesn't translate very well.
It would seem like also an unwise choice as a sales manager could really demoralize the whole sales team.
It can do that. Another point I think we should make is realize when you take a salesperson and make them a sales manager, they're going to have to go through a whole new set of training. We train them to sell. Now we got to train them to manage. Somehow there's this assumption that just because you know how to sell, you can immediately slip over and you have this other skill set. You may be very capable of it. And there's been lots and lots of salespeople that have transformed over into being really good managers. But understand, you're going to have to devote the budget. You're going to have to give them the time. You're going to have to send them away online, a variety of things. But they're going to have to go through management classes, how to counsel and coach and deal with people. It's going to be a completely different skill set. So it's not nearly as small a jump, I think, as some people think, to go from being the best salesman to the best manager.